What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only Tesla stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm going to go over a lot of articles about Tesla, what's happening with the overall market, and something big that just happened to Tesla as we are seeing the short interest almost double overnight. The shorts are piling in, they're getting ready for something very big. We are seeing a lot of puts being bought on Tesla right now. So I'm going to talk about what this all tells us, what this may mean for the future, and whether or not the shorts are about to get squeezed out of their positions or if Tesla's about to come down very hard after tomorrow because we have earnings that's coming out. It's going to be very important. I'm going to talk about some other important things to look out for and how this may affect Tesla's share price. Now, before I break anything down, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire Tesla community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, whether it's $1 or $100, it's up to you. You're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free Tesla share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 1 week. Check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So Tesla was actually up about 0.1% for the day. It's a little bit more green in the after hours after Microsoft ended up announcing their earnings. They actually had some segments of their earnings that did better than expected. But so far, Tesla's kind of stuck around this range. I did mention to you guys that my prediction for the top before earnings was between 145 to 150. I thought it was very possible for us to get there. We did actually hit 146.46, so technically it did kind of come in that range, but now we are getting hit by some resistance, and we're starting to kind of trade sideways right over here. So now it looks like the big money out there is just being kind of patient right now and waiting. We're not seeing Tesla making crazy swings as of right now, and I believe this trend is likely going to continue going into tomorrow. We most likely will trade kind of sideways, maybe push up a little bit more, but I think people are just going to be very patient just to wait for earnings. I want to note that Tesla does have major resistance right here where this yellow declining trend line is. And we also broke above the rising wedge we've been respecting. Now, we do have a lot of gaps that have formed, and we know historically when Tesla pushes up very hard going into earnings, this tends to not always work out the best because if it does not meet the really high expectations that have been placed on this stock, things could change seriously. Now, before I break anything down about Tesla's earnings, I want to talk about the context of the market and how this is affecting Tesla. So, just a couple of minutes ago, Microsoft ended up actually announcing earnings, and they did not actually beat on everything. This is a little bit misleading. They did actually miss on revenue. They did barely beat on earnings per share. But despite that, despite the fact that they missed on their revenue, they did actually show a 20% growth for their cloud segment. And that's what actually really impressed many investors. And that's part of the reason why they're pumping in the after hours. And that in turn actually caused the whole market to turn green, at least just temporarily. This does not guarantee anything about close for tomorrow, but it is showing some positive sentiment. But remember, this could all change depending on the big dogs such as Apple and Amazon and Alphabet and Tesla and many other ones out there. Many analysts are still very concerned about a recession. They're talking about many signals out there. Be on the lookout because a recession is not just about jobs going down. That is a big part of it. We are already seeing lots of big tech layoffs, but it's also going to be about earnings recession, right? That's also going to be very important. We could see many big changes in guidance, especially from people like Elon Musk very soon, but we have to just wait and see. Now, as far as data and more earnings go, I want to note that today was a better day for earnings. We had a lot of beats today on earnings per share and revenue, and some misses here and there for many smaller banks. Verizon just barely met on earnings per share, but they did actually, I think they ended up actually missing on revenue. I could be off there. Yes, they actually, oh no, they beat on revenue. Sorry about that. So they did pretty decent. And then Microsoft's overall, technically, it was mixed on paper, but they did actually exceed some segments of the expectations. That's part of why it was a little bit better than some of Wall Street projected. Now, I want to note that for Thursday, we have jobless claims data. We also have PCE on Friday. And then today we had PMI data that came out. You don't need to worry too much about it. Basically, it did give us some good indications of the market. Basically, we're seeing declines in company performances for the S&P, but the declines are not at the same degree that the market wants them to be. All right. This is basically telling us that yes, the economy is slowing down, but it's not at the levels we may want it to be at, which may make the Fed even more hawkish than what some people may think. Once again, I'm not guaranteeing that the Fed will like crash us, but it is very possible seeing data like this. For tomorrow, do not forget, we have Boeing. Before the market opens, we have AT&T, Progressive, and the Nasdaq all reporting earnings. And then during the after hours, we're going to have Tesla, IBM, and many other big companies. All eyes are going to be on Tesla, though. That's going to be one of the biggest ones out there. Elon Musk should be speaking as well. And I do believe he's going to say a lot of things about the longer term future, but there are going to be some warnings I have for everyone. I'm going to talk about that in just a few minutes. When it comes to Tesla, the Model Y inventories are still on a bit of a decline. This is the most up to date data. Even today, there's still a decline, showing that the price cuts have actually helped Tesla. But the real question is, with the price cuts we saw in December and then these new ones as well, how is Tesla going to meet on earnings per share? There's no guarantee they're going to meet on all expectations. And we know that Tesla is a stock that is so looked at into the future that these expectations tend to be very harsh. And if Tesla kind of like misses one of them, if they miss on revenue or one of them, the consequences of that could be very, very dire, right? Companies tend to exaggerate. The reaction tends to be very exaggerated, in my opinion, and it's a very volatile stock. So I'm going to be very, very cautious when doing anything about this company. I personally am not going to be holding any options overnight. Non financial advice, by the way, is just my own opinion. I'm just going to be very careful with the stock. Now, when it comes to news, just real quick, Tesla's Magic Dock will move supercharger network to all EV compatibility. Once again, this would be very, very cool. It's also going to help the network become more extensive for over 40,000 locations. Once again, very awesome news in my opinion. This did come out yesterday, but we could get more information about this for earnings. I believe Elon Musk will be talking more about potential gigafactories. Maybe we'll get some news about Optimus. Who knows? He will also talk a lot about guidance, and I think that's going to be one of the most important things. Elon Musk, however, has mentioned, he has given us some hints that guidance may not be as strong or like as huge as it used to be for the company, because Elon Musk mentioned that he believes we're going to be entering a recession in 2023 that's going to be comparable to that of 2009. So I'm going to be very cautious. Like I said, Elon Musk may not be the guy that causes Tesla to just explode overnight. He may be a realist as well, and that's something I do like about him. But at the same time, like I said, he will talk a lot about the future, and I think that's what's going to be good about the company. Now, another thing that's big is all over the news we're seeing that Tesla may be announcing a new factory in Nevada, and this will be helping with the production of the Tesla semis. I think that's going to be very, very awesome. I think it's a 3.5 or $3.6 billion venture. Very, very cool. We may get more news about this. But here's the concerning thing I was actually mentioning. Elon Musk, okay, if you look at his Twitter, yes, he talks about Tesla once in a while, but the large majority of his tweets are usually just about Twitter. They're about other things, even many political things. And as awesome as it is to have a person that tries to be real and does not have a filter, right? That's awesome. But the problem is he is subjected to lots of criticism. And what concerns me is, what if Tesla ends up missing on like earnings just by some small margin? And we have a CEO that's also the CEO of Twitter. Technically, he's working so hard on Twitter and he's constantly tweeting on Twitter. My point is, the media could eat this up. It's a very good opportunity for them to cause pain for Tesla. They can try to blame Elon Musk. I want to warn everyone that if you see all these articles putting all the blame on him, do not fall for any of it. I do believe that maybe to some degree, yes, you could throw shade at Elon Musk for some things, sure. But at the same time, you have to remember a lot of these issues that Tesla is going through are out of their own control. As the earnings recession comes, there's going to be pain left and right all over the place, regardless of how well these companies try to look, especially for decades to come. You have to be prepared for that. So, in my honest opinion, we might see something like this happen if Tesla does miss, and it's going to require a lot for Tesla to actually pump. I want to note that I noticed if you look at the amount of shares that were shorted, it was about, I think, 16 million. That could be wrong. I think that's the overall short interest. The amount of shares that were actually shorted was pretty crazy high. We saw millions and millions of these shares shorted. We actually saw the amount of shares that were shorted at over 16 million. It doubled to about almost 30 million in just one day, just yesterday. So we saw another about 13 to 14 million shares of Tesla shorted in just one day when Tesla made such a big move. So Wall Street is starting to load up on the short positions on Tesla. They're shorting this stock very hard. They're getting ready and they're betting that the stock is going to come down. I also want to note that when looking at the options data, I noticed that the put to call ratios were actually well above, I'm sorry, they were well below one for the next couple of weeks, at least as of yesterday. And now, when you look at them, we're seeing the put to call ratios for February going into March above 1, 1.68, 1.03, all above 1. This is a big change I noticed. What does this mean? This means that people are buying puts, the shorts are piling in, they're betting Tesla is going to come down. This means that if Tesla ends up killing it during earnings and Musk announces something that causes this thing to go up, this thing could squeeze to the upside. But at the same time, this thing is technically, it has been making a really big move over a short period of time. It could also go the opposite direction and the shorts could also come out on top. There's always the possibility they know something before the data comes out, right? So, what do I think is likely going to happen? And this is where it's very, very difficult to predict. For tomorrow, I don't expect this thing to dump. I think that after Microsoft's earnings, it also depends on the news, of course, depending on what happens with Tesla. I can't always predict the news, but I believe we're just going to remain kind of choppy in this zone. This is almost resembling a wedge now because this was the previous resistance, which is now becoming support. Then this is the main resistance line right over here. Tesla's likely going to trade kind of sideways going into tomorrow. I think lots of people are going to be very patient, but we might even try to break out just a little bit between this, like I mentioned before, 145 to 150 area. I predicted that this would be the top area for Tesla before the earnings report. And then where we move after that is going to depend heavily on earnings. Okay. What do I think is going to happen? Well, when we pump really hard like this and we just gap up 3 times in a row, we actually have like 3 big gaps that formed in a very, very short period of time. And if you consider the fact that Elon Musk was warning everyone about the fact that he believes a recession is coming this year, I don't believe guidance is going to be as bright or as huge as some people would have anticipated. So I'm still very, very cautious, right? It could go either way, but I am a little bit more inclined to thinking we're going to end up coming down. That's just my prediction. And I want to give you guys more reasons for that. I think the overall market is telling us a story. I believe even though we are a little bit up on SPY, I personally believe that the market is forming a topping process right now. I believe we're getting very, very close to forming our temporary top. My prediction on SPY was as long as we don't break above this blue line around this 410 area, which was the high from December, as long as we don't break that, we're most likely going to be in a bull trap. This is most likely a trap. I do believe there's a possibility we could pump to this 402 to 406 level, but somewhere here, I anticipate the market to form a top, and then we are going to likely see a decline because this pump is the Fed is bluffing pump. Okay, the market is betting that the Fed is bluffing. They're lying. They're not going to be as strict. They're not going to be hawkish. We know what happens when the market tends to do this during times like this, the terminal funds rate is likely going to be above 5% as the Fed has told us on countless occasions. We also have these gaps down here on SPY and many technical indicators telling us the market may reverse very soon. We do have a bearish divergence on the RSI that formed on the hourly chart, because right here you can see SPY was actually making a higher high compared to this high right here over the last couple of days, whereas the RSI has been making these lower highs. Right, that's a big divergence. Typically, when you get divergences like this, we see the market end up coming down. Here's an example of it, like right here. Okay, just look at these two. Look at this double top right here. All right, our top was a little bit higher or almost the same uh, from both of these ends. But then on the RSI, there's a divergence. The RSI was clearly forming a divergence, and as a result, we got this big drop. But then we did bounce, and now we're forming an even bigger divergence from here to here, suggesting the market, maybe we pump up a little bit more, but then we are going to likely see some downside soon. And if the market comes down, that could drag Tesla down. On the NASDAQ, we also have, let me see, a potential head and shoulders that's still legit. And I do believe this is going to play out in my honest opinion, because in order to invalidate this, we have to pump above this purple line on NASDAQ. As of right now, we tried, we are starting to come down a bit. We might trade kind of sideways, but I do believe a decline is still yet to come. And I believe FOMC may play a big role in it, not to mention other earnings. Remember, we have a very big earnings week, especially next week when we have the bigger mega caps. Not to mention, I mean, we have Tesla tomorrow and other big ones too. So please be very cautious. I think on the VIX, okay, there are two possibilities. The first possibility is we might just start flying at any given moment to the upside, but there's also a possibility that the VIX might come down one last time to fill this gap. I think 18 may have been the bottom on the VIX, and then this thing's going to get ready to bounce. And as we approach February, this thing should start pushing up above 20, going into much higher levels because of SPY coming down, because this is measuring the implied volatility of it. So I do believe this is a sign that the market is still set for potential downside. I think Apple is very close to its top as well. I did mention this in a previous video. I'm going to be watching. It's very close to this like 145-ish level, this zone right here, 145 to 143. Very close to this zone right here is where I saw Apple topping. We actually came close to it at 143. I do think Apple's close to topping, and we could see a big reversal soon. Finally, on QQQ, very similar trend. We actually hit 290. That could be the top. Uh, I believe that's very possible. And then after that, we could see the same trend as SPY. I also want to note that on the dollar index, the 100 to 101 was my target, and I've been talking about this thing bouncing. I do believe it's going to take a little bit more time, but this thing is going to likely start pushing up, which will cause the market to come down. Maybe the tightening of financial conditions will play a big role. Maybe it's going to be the debt ceiling. There could be so many different factors. The 10-year treasury yield is also on a very interesting trend. It could come down just a little bit to fill this last gap. Maybe the market gets another sideways day, maybe a small push again before this thing ends up reversing and starts pushing up on a very, very nice uptrend. And if that starts happening, it's going to be a bearish signal for the stock market, right? So we are seeing many, many things at key supports, and if they bounce, that could bring the market down. And simultaneously, SPY is at a very key resistance zone, very, very key zone right over here. And in my opinion, like I said, the divergences are still suggesting the market's going to likely come down. I'm saying this because this will likely play a role in Tesla coming down. If the market's on a big downtrend going into February after FOMC, Tesla's likely going to continue to downtrend, and we are less than a week and a half from it. I think we're just 8 days away from FOMC. Very, very important stuff. What I think Tesla's going to do is this. In my opinion, we could go either way. It depends on earnings. So I don't truly know. Okay, I don't know what's going to happen after earnings. Okay, earnings is tomorrow after the market closes. But if I could give you guys my educated prediction, I would say that tomorrow when the market opens, we kind of trade sideways. Then when earnings comes, we might see this thing try to pop just a little bit. It could be like a fake out, and Tesla will likely come back down to this wedge and start a bit of a downtrend. I don't expect Tesla to beat on earnings per share or on revenue, but if they do beat on everything, I mean, a lot of the shorts could get squeezed pretty hard. I just don't expect that to happen. It's just my prediction. I think what's most likely going to happen is this whole rising wedge like formation is going to play out. Even though we did break a little bit above it, sometimes that happens. And I think Tesla's going to end up coming down and start filling a lot of these gaps. We do have a tendency of doing that. Okay. If we are on a rally and we pump way too hard in a short period of time and we just gap up again and again and again right before earnings, especially because Elon Musk did tell everyone we are going to likely be entering a recession. Guidance is likely not going to be the best. Okay, it's going to be very different, and I don't expect Tesla to do extremely, extremely well. And it's not to say that Tesla's doing bad in a way. It's like Tesla could do all right, but compared to expectations, in that perspective, Tesla will not, in my opinion, have the strongest of earnings, and we might start to come down to fill these gaps. That's just my prediction. Uh, I do believe a downtrend could come to the markets over the next couple of weeks based off many technical indicators. And that's the reason why I'm still very, very cautious with Tesla. Watch out for the implied volatility crush. Watch that very, very carefully after earnings because that could kind of fool a lot of people. With that said, I want to thank you all for listening. I apologize if this video was a little too long. I just wanted to talk a lot about important details and give you guys my 2 cents for the future. I believe Tesla is going to have a pretty boring sideways day. I mean, it is possible for us to try to break to the upside just a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be that hard. I think we're mostly going to just chop back and forth, maybe push up just a little bit, not really too much. And then the majority of investors are just going to be very patient in getting ready for earnings. Please remember Tesla is very shorted right now. It could lead to either a big move to the upside or a big move to the downside. A big move is coming, in my opinion. And after earnings, after the market closes tomorrow, I do believe it's more likely to lead to more downside for Tesla. It's just my honest opinion. Anyways, thank you all for listening. Have a great rest of the day. Remain calm, cool, and collected. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Tesla to the moon because the long term future is still incredibly bright. I'm still very bullish on Tesla long term, despite these contingencies and despite the hardships the company could be going through in this recession or this recessionary environment. Thank you for listening and peace out.